Good morning. Again, it is later than it was yesterday, than I was out, but the sun is actually a lot brighter, even though right now it's behind the clouds. But it's okay, because we just gonna keep it moving because it's not too hot and it feels all right. This weekend is a very important weekend for me. On this weekend marks 3 years since I said yes to pastoring. And although I am no longer pastoring, I think it is still important that I acknowledge when I said yes. And so in 2022, I was supposed to go to Germany with my family, as we had done the 2 summers before, spending the summer over there with my sister. And I got a phone call from the bishop saying that I was a person that he had been told was overlooked and interested in pastoring, and telling me that he had 2 churches that were open and wanting to know my distance from them and if I desired to do so. So I told him yes. So I heard nothing else. And if you know anything about the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the AME Church, you know that you have to always be ready. I gotta stop. And here's why I gotta stop. So, as I'm talking about my pastoral journey, I find this feather. And for those of you that have been following me for a long time, you know that feathers are really extremely significant to me because of the book, The Dream Giver. And I was actually just asked if I was going to start that series again. And so talking about pastoring and finding this feather and someone asking me, there may be something to that and I may need to look in that. But that's a story for another day. Ooh, look at that. My nose is glistening. Y'all, I sweat on my nose. So I didn't hear anything. And so I had to make a decision between going to Germany and staying. And so I decided that I would stay and wait to see if I was going to get appointed to church, and then I would come afterwards. Well, I'm glad I did, because on that closing night of July 14th, my name was called as the pastor of Campbell's Chapel in Virginia Beach. Campbell's Chapel AME Church in Virginia Beach, Virginia. It was very emotional. It was very surreal. Campbell's Chapel was the church of one of my good friends and colleagues who was a part of the family of faith, who passed unexpectedly a year earlier. And to be able to step in his shoes and step in his pulpit and to help lead his people through grief and healing, it was an honor, and I was honored to do so. When I looked down at my appointments, because in the AME Church we have appointments, and when I looked down at my appointment, it was dated for July 11th, Tuesday, which is when the appointments were originally supposed to be read. Why is July 11th significant? That was the day that he unexpectedly passed. And so on the day that my friend and colleague unexpectedly passed was the day that the bishop appointed me to lead his church. And I was overcome by emotion. Now we fast forward to 3 years later in 2025. Good morning.
Hello.
And I'm no longer pastoring. I did make the decision to step down from pastoring on April 30th. And there are a lot of things that's happening in my life and that was going on in my life that led to that decision. And I just think that it was time that the church got what they needed. Good morning. And I had done what I came there to do. So this weekend is bittersweet. It is a moment of reflection that God chose me and God deemed me worthy, and that God saw fit to allow me to lead his people even for a little while, and that God also gave me the strength and fortitude to walk away, because that's what needed to happen, and that my time was up and that was okay. So I celebrate the 3rd anniversary of my yes. for something, good morning, that I said I was never going to do, that I said I was not called for, and that I said, I'm not being nobody's pastor. I wasn't called to pastor. But I said yes, and I would not trade those 2.5 years for anything. So, Tashara, good job. Good job. Good job. And I'm not saying this to myself, even though it is okay for me to say it to myself, but I am simply encouraging myself with the words that have been said to me about my short tenure as pastor. Well done. You said yes, and God was faithful. And now you can walk with your head held high, with no shame. Ooh, look at that. So that is all I have today as I sit in reflection of what this weekend means, what this weekend brings, and also because it is not lost on me that although the date I received the appointment was the 14th, the 5th anniversary of the Curious Theologian Academy is on the 15th. And I already know that God is up to some things and God is doing some things, and I am excited about it. So, since I am doing a little more than glistening, I'm about to get off this here video. You all have a super fantastic weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Bye.